Talk to me about last week, 42 race winless streak. I know that those are always full of questions, and with your scenario and everything that happened with your injuries and suspension and everything that led to this, tell me the relief that you felt last week when you took the checkered flag after that race.
Yeah, well, first, I'm not quite used to seeing you on the other side of the interview.
Strange, I know.
It is odd.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to it, but yeah, definitely relief involved for sure. I think anytime you go through a period where you're not, it's not just the winning, it's just really more than anything, it's been not necessarily running like I feel we've been capable of running. So that has been better over the last month or so, and anytime that elevates to a new level or into a position that you feel like is competitive again, to me that is the biggest hurdle. Like I'm happy to answer the questions and do this or that when you feel like you're running good enough to be in the mix. I think a lot of the frustration and whatnot behind the scenes has just been like, man, I know we're better than this. I know we can do better and at least get ourselves in position. And then obviously winning is just kind of the cherry on top. But I think it's more running well for me personally that is that relief and the satisfaction that I'm hunting on a weekly basis.
So last week watching the race, like it just looked like another step of aggression on the restarts. I felt that you were one of 2 or 3 cars that were really aggressive on the restarts, and it paid off for you. Obviously, you had the strategy early. So explain to me why last week you were. I mean, I know you're always aggressive, and maybe some of that is just the timing of knowing you were in position to win, had the opportunity. But explain that aggression from last week.
Yeah, that's been a popular question over the course of the week. I think
it's probably my fault. We talked about it a lot on the broadcast, just pointing it out, but it was noticeable.
Yeah, no, I think that type of aggression has been there at different times. It's always easy to point that out when you win the race or when things go really well or we have a week like we did, this past weekend. I think it's an easy topic to talk about when things are in your favor. I just think that aggression has been there previously, maybe just on days where we haven't run as good or you might not necessarily notice it. Obviously for me, I'm in the seat firsthand, so I see stuff that maybe you might not catch on TV or if you're not necessarily up in the front couple of rows. So I don't know that it's not been there before. I've tried to do a better job of knowing when to exercise aggression at the right time, and obviously experience helps that. And I also felt like we had a strong car, so I think all those things weigh into the decision of, do you take these guys 3 wide? Do you make this move or not? And I just felt like we had a legitimate shot, at the win, and those opportunities were really good at the right time to make them. So, and honestly, now it's just, I think in the past some of it is like risk reward, right? Is this worth the risk right now to crash, basically? Am I going to have a shot to win? Am I doing this to run 10th? What is that risk reward? And nowadays, with the way this thing races, it's like you just almost have to live on that side of the fence more often than not, or you're just going to get totally taken advantage of. So a little bit of each of those things, but I think nowadays just you have to be willing to take some more risks if you want to be up in those front few rows.
What's it like to race on a racetrack like last week, where it's just every lap is just on the edge, taking chances? I mean, you talk about taking chances, but in order to run fast at Texas, you have to take chances, and then you live in that culture of what the Gen 7 car has brought that you just said. You have to live on the edge, and so you go through that, and you look to be on the aggressive side. The one car was on the aggressive side. There was 2 or 3 of you guys that were on the aggressive side. When you get in a race like that, how do you set your mindset to be different than every other week, knowing that you have to survive,
right? But
you also have to take a lot of chances.
Yeah, I think something that a lot of people don't realize is, I mean, I could have gone home Sunday night and crashed in that race, and I would have not been any more surprised by wrecking as winning the race. Like both of those two things could have very easily happened. I mean, there was 4 or 5 instances in the event that I had big moments in 1 and 2 that I might not have caught, like just wasn't necessarily doing anything different, just happened to catch it that time. And I look around and I see other guys in that same boat, and some people got lucky and drove off of 2, and some guys ended up crashed. So that surface there, as you well know, is just, it's super edgy. The tire they have to bring to live in 3 and 4 is not what 1 and 2 wants at all. So it just, it puts you into a position that you have to be right there on the edge of that corner entry into 1. This car seemingly is making a lot of pace, is how much entry pace you can have and how hard you can drive in the corner and kind of shift that corner around. And that comes at a big risk when you're driving in deep.
So Alan has obviously been with you for a long time. I'm a huge Alan Gustafson fan.
Me too.
I love his intensity. You're a pretty mellow dude. I mean, you get wound up during the times, but I would classify you as pretty mellow outside of the car. He's mellow, but I've been around him enough and probably made him mad enough at sometimes that he's raised his voice, and you see the intensity whether he's riding his bicycle. How does that push you? Because he went to bat for you afterwards, saying, I just don't understand what all the talk is about, and rattled off your stats. Knew immediately. He's like, we led this many laps, we've finished in the top 5 this many times, and this is what we're doing. Like, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. But explain that relationship to me, because from the outside looking in, it seems like he's the one that's always pushing. And that crew chief driver balance is important. Explain your relationship and how that operates between the two of you.
Yeah, well, I am glad to hear that, because I'm a huge fan of his too. And he's not a guy that makes a lot of noise in the media or on the internet or whatever. And that's one of the things I love about him a lot is he is just head down and focused on doing his job and making sure that he's elevating the entire team to be better, making sure the right people are in place, making sure I'm doing my part, pushing me to be better. And we can just have these open and honest conversations with one another that are hard to have some days if I don't feel like I'm doing my part, or if he didn't do his part right, or vice versa. Like, we can just have these conversations, and there's never any ill feelings afterwards. It's just like, yeah, you know what, you're right, and we got to go to work and make that better. And that's just how our working relationship has always been. And it's super simple in that sense. I've always tried to let him do his job and let himself, let he hold himself accountable first. And he has always allowed me to be me and do the same, and just let me do my part and push each other when we need to. And I think that's why it's worked. So
yeah, because you hear all the nonsense outside of your circle, and I think it's always interesting to hear from the driver and the crew chief that are actually in that mix that'll be honest with you and tell you, hey, I'm not going to be the guy that tells you what to do with the car. I'm going to be the guy that tells you what the car is doing. And Alan is I guess he could come across super intense, but you guys have to navigate a lot together. And to me, it sounds like you don't even talk about the noise outside of, you handle the noise. Alan is quiet and works on the car, and you guys communicate. So it doesn't sound like anything on the outside ever even makes it inside the doors.
Ever. And that's exactly what you want, or it's exactly what I want. And that's how he likes to go about his business too. And I think that goes back to him letting me do my part, me letting him do his part. He knows I'm going to have to answer a lot of the questions, and he lets me do that how I feel I need to answer them. But he knows that when I shut that media center door and I come into his office, that we're going to work on the things that's going to make us go faster ultimately, and that's our jobs. And I love that.
Hey race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News content and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.